What is going on, guys? Thanks for checking out this video, my sports Gematria. In this video, I am going to talk about the 3 destructive habits when decoding sports games. Now, this isn't the top 3 or the only 3, but this is 3 destructive habits I feel that are common, at least common from what I've seen over the last 5 years when decoding sports games. So let's get right into it. The first destructive habit I have found is the habit of hunting for underdogs. Now, I do want to say that there's nothing wrong with picking an underdog. There's nothing wrong with wanting to pick an underdog. Underdogs hold tremendous value when it comes to sports betting. I totally get that. However, if you are just only focused on trying to pick underdogs, in the long run, that's going to be a destructive habit, and you're going to lose more than you win, and it's going to be very frustrating for you. A lot of the underdog driven picks that I have found in the sports Gematria community are very ego driven. Decoders want to pick underdogs not because they actually have a betting strategy around it. They pick underdogs because they want to be the ones to say, ha ha, I told you so, that this team was going to upset this team or this underdog was going to win. It's more about the bragging rights than it is about actually getting the pick right and actually having a strategic betting strategy. It's ego driven. Majority of the time. Not all of the time, but majority of the time it is. Now, why is this a destructive habit? Well, the reason why it's a destructive habit, for one, dealing with the ego. Ego is rarely ever on your side, but it's destructive because of something called the reticular activating system. Have you ever heard about your RAS? Is what it's called, short RAS. What the reticular activating system is, it's a part of your brain right here. It's at the base of your brain. Your RAS is right here. What it does is it acts as a filter against data all around us, which also includes your decoding. So, for example, the sounds that are around you, the tastes that are around you, the colors that are around you, the pictures, the images, the numbers. There's so much pieces of data all around us consciously in our reality. Our brain can't process every single bit of it. And so what the RAS does, or the reticular activating system, it acts as a filter. So your RAS, it filters and only lets things, quote unquote, in that you deem, quote unquote, important. Okay? So say you're at a party and there's a bunch of people there at the party. Well, your RAS can only focus on so much. Okay, you're gonna have loud sounds at the party, the loud music. You're gonna have a lot of people laughing and dancing and having a good time. You're not gonna be able to focus on all of that. So your RAS is gonna only focus on and let important information in that you particularly, you yourself deem important. Another good example of this, I guess maybe a more relatable example for you guys to understand, is self-talk. I put this thing down here. The idea is to be careful on what you focus on because your RAS will show you things to prove it's true even when it's not true. So self-talk. I can't do it. I'm not worthy. I must be perfect. Nobody loves me. I'm not good enough. I must not make a mistake. What your RAS will do if you focus on these things will give you life examples in your reality, in your life, that support it. It's the age-old saying, it doesn't matter if you can or can't do it, either way you're right. So if you tell yourself you can't do something, then obviously you can't do it, right? Because your RAS, your reticular activation system, is focused on you not doing it. So it's going to give you examples or show you examples, or at least your brain is going to filter out all the examples that don't support you not being able to do it. On the flip side, if you tell yourself you can do it, your RAS is going to filter out all the information that shows that you can't do it. And it's only going to focus on information that shows that you can do it. Same thing with I'm not worthy. Same with I must be perfect and all that stuff. This relates back to your decodes. If you're focusing, when you go into a decode and your primary focus is underdogs, 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 well, guess what's going to happen? Your reticular activating system is going to filter out any information, any numbers, any numerical patterns, any mathematics that support an underdog losing. And your brain is only going to let in information that supports an underdog winning, regardless of whether the information is accurate or not. And in the long run, this is going to hurt you. It's going to be destructive because you're going to lose more picks than you're going to win because of your reticular activating system only focusing on underdogs. And because you're only focused on underdogs, you're going to only allow information into your brain that supports the underdog, regardless if that information is incorrect or not. So what's the solution to this? The solution is to decode games for the sake of picking a winner, regardless of whether it's a favorite or an underdog. So when you go in to pick a game, you pick the game for the sole purpose of trying to figure out who the actual winner is. If the winner is a favorite, so be it. If the winner ends up being an underdog, so be it. You want to train your reticular activating system into focusing on winners. Winners, winners, winners. This will allow you to pick up on winning patterns, and this will give you the confidence you need to bet on an underdog when you actually come across one. You see, if your whole focus is to pick the winner, and the winner that you pick just so happens to also be an underdog, the confidence level that you'll have to actually bet on that underdog will be much more greater than the confidence you would have to bet on an underdog if your entire strategy is nothing but underdogs and all you focus on is underdogs and you lose more often than you win because of it. And like I've already mentioned, focusing on underdogs can be very ego driven. And what I found over the years in this Gematria community is when people go after underdogs, very rarely is it ever their betting strategy, and it's more about the ego of saying, ha ha, I told you so, I was right, you was wrong. That's the whole basis for it. Very destructive, very unhealthy. Get away from it. So the next destructive habit, the second destructive habit one can have is not creating a system for yourself. You have to have a system for yourself when doing sports Gematria on a daily basis. If you want to pick games on a daily basis, or even on a weekly basis, or even a monthly basis, having a system for yourself is going to allow you to do it much easier. It's going to keep you more structured, and your results are going to be better in the end because of it. You'll be able to trace your winning patterns. You'll be able to trace your losing patterns. You'll be able to learn and grow with your system. I use the scientific method for my system. That's how I started. I've proven my sports Gematria through the scientific method, and I'm the only one on the internet that has done so. There's no other sports Gematria decoder on the entire internet that has used and proven their method with the scientific method. It reminds me of a saying that I always talk about is it was a bodybuilder who had this saying, and I do this saying, and I kind of flip it for sports Gematria. But the saying goes, everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, but don't nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight. Everybody wants to be in shape and healthy, but don't nobody actually want to work out and eat healthy. Right? We all want that junk food. We all want to be lazy. And I contribute that quote to sports Gematria as well. Everybody wants to claim that their sports picking method gives them winners, but don't nobody actually want to test it against the scientific method. Nobody wants to actually pick 1,000 games in a row with their system to find out what their actual result is. They're too scared, or they're too lazy, or they know they don't have a system, and so they just avoid it altogether. Get out of that destructive habit, create a system for yourself. And you can make it easy for yourself as well. I did. All I do is my daily numbers and my game numbers. On the left side of my screen is the daily numbers. On the right side of my screen is my game numbers. If you've seen my videos, you see me talking about this. And if you haven't seen my past videos, go back and look at my other lesson videos, and you'll see my system verbatim. And you can copy it verbatim if you want to. I keep it color coordinated, right? So the numbers that I'm picking, for example, this is my daily numbers right here. This would be on the left side of my screen, but the Gregorian calendar I have in the gray color, the Hebrew civil I have in the cantaloupe color, and the Hebrew religious I have in the purple color. So if there's any numbers or any patterns on my game numbers, I mark it in these colors based off the calendar. It keeps me color coordinated. It lets me know where the number's coming from. That way, if I get the pick wrong, I can go back and see why I made that pick, why I made that pattern, why I put that color there. It helps me understand what it is that I'm doing. Also, it's very repetitive, right? This is so easy to copy and paste. Like tomorrow, copy, paste, and I just update the numbers. Boom, 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 boom. It's very easy for me to do this because I have a system for myself. And I made it very easy for myself so I don't have to do anything crazy or hard or do all this heavy lifting that's unnecessary. So you want to get in a habit of creating a system like this for yourself. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine, but just get in the habit of having something, some type of accountability for yourself. This is how you're going to grow as a decoder. This is how you're going to get better. This is how you're going to learn from your mistakes. And it's going to give you a structure and framework to allow you to learn from your mistakes and to grow as a decoder versus, just pulling some numbers on a random game in some random format that has no structure. And who knows? I don't operate that way, and I wouldn't advise you to operate that way. See how easy that was? As I was talking, in less than a minute, boom. My system's very repetitive. Having a system allows you to keep records of your results. I think this is one of the bigger reasons why I think a lot of sports decoders in the community don't have a system. Is because they don't actually want to keep record of their results, because their results isn't anything to be happy about. When you keep track of your results, when you have a system, you're able to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you, what patterns work and what patterns don't work. You can learn from your mistakes. You can press your hot streaks and you can work through your cold streaks. And at the end of the day, you have your bragging right to say, hey, I've picked 800 games in the last 4 months, and I operate above a 60% win ratio. I mean, how many sports decoders can actually say that on the internet right now and prove it publicly with their picks? I'll wait. Very little, if any at all. I think I might be the only one. What this also does, it allows you to follow up afterwards. So you can, because if you have your system together, you have a framework together for yourself, you've built a framework and a system for yourself. Anytime you get one wrong, you can just go back and follow up why you got that wrong, understand your mistake, learn from it, grow from it. It keeps you accountable. All right, so let's go on to the third destructive habit when it comes to sports decoding. And this one is a very common habit that I've seen throughout the years, and that's the idea, or subscribing to the idea, of flipping the script. I've seen this so many times in the last 5 to 6 years where a guru sports decoder will make a pick, get that pick wrong, and then themselves, as well as their followers, would say things like, "Oh, they must have flipped the script. Oh, they knew you were right, so they flipped the script on you." The level of ego that you would have to deem yourself that important to think a billion-dollar industry is going to flip this quote-unquote script just because of you is astronomical. The same level of ego goes into the first destructive habit of picking nothing but underdogs. Sports decoding and the sports decoding community is extremely ego driven. All about the ego. It's all about me, me, me. I am the guru. I got it right. I called the biggest upset. I called the winner 10 months in advance, even though nobody actually ever does it. Ego driven. And this is what this third destructive habit is, flipping the script. It's ego driven. Okay, as if you're so important. I even see comments to this day from people saying, oh, they know that we're doing Gematria. Now they're making it even harder for us to predict winners on a daily basis. It's not harder for me to pick winners on a daily basis because I have a system. I've been doing it for years. I know what I'm doing. I get away from these destructive habits. But I still see those comments. And again, the level of ego you have to deem yourself that important is far beyond anything that I can even relate to. On top of that, when you subscribe to this idea of flipping the script, what you're doing is you're killing any examination as to how you arrived at the wrong pick in the first place. Because if you make a pick, right, say your whole idea is to pick underdogs. And so you find this underdog, your reticular activating system hones you in on an underdog, filters out all the other information that goes against the underdog winning. And so you pick the underdog and the underdog loses. And so you're going to be like, oh man, the underdog lost. They must have flipped the script on me, right? Well, what did you just do? You just killed any thought process that you had prior to picking that wrong pick. So now you can't go back and examine what you did wrong and trying to figure out the right numerical code. No, you're too busy diving down into the depths of ego, thinking that you're so important. And it's just, ugh, it's disgusting. You know, and it's disgusting because a lot of people in the Gematria community believe this is all ritual-based advancement, meaning these games are predetermined, pre-scripted years and seasons in advance. Okay? Think about that. How can they flip the script if it's ritually based? Who's changing their ritual in the last minute? There's no such thing as a cult or a witchcraft group or whatever you want to call them, changing their ritual last minute because of whatever reasons. No, it's a ritual for a reason. They follow procedures for a reason. So if you're going to subscribe to everything being perfectly scripted years in advance, you should never be subscribing to the flipping the script mentality. What this does is cause what I like to call cognitive dissonance. It's a mental discomfort experienced by a person who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. To give you an example, one person says, hey, I'm a smoker. And at the back of their mind, they also know smoking causes cancer. See, this is two contradictory beliefs and ideas or values that this single person holds. Cognitive dissonance. Same here. If you subscribe to the idea that they flip the script, but you also subscribe that it's all ritual based well in advance, this is two fundamentally different ideas, beliefs, and values. This means that you experience cognitive dissonance when you make sports picks. Very destructive habit to have. So let's review. Go in with the mindset of finding out who is going to win regardless of status. Now, there's nothing wrong with picking underdogs. Just understand why you're picking the underdog. Is it because, there's actual numbers there to support the underdog and that you're just trying to figure out who the winner is and that winner just so happens to be an underdog? Or is it more ego driven? Is it more of nana nana boo boo, look at me, I called the biggest underdog of the day? I see that a lot, especially when I've made picks. If you've been on my Patreon, you'll see people, I'll post my picks, and you'll see nobody makes a comment and then until after the games are over. Then after the games are over, I'll get a few people making comments saying, "Ah, I told you, or I knew that this upset was gonna hit. Oh man, I made so much money because of this and this." You know, they're nowhere to be seen prior to the game. They're nowhere to be seen during the game. They're only seen after the game has already ended, and that's when they actually want to speak up and say, "Yada yada yada, I picked this." Get away from that. It's a destructive mindset. It's a destructive habit. It's going to hurt you in the long run. Go in with the mindset of picking the winner regardless of the status. Second one, have a working system for yourself. Okay, this is only going to help you grow as a decoder. It's going to help you learn from your mistakes. It's going to help you keep you organized. It's going to allow you to pick games on a daily basis because you have a system for yourself that you can easily replicate, copy and paste, and systematize. And of course, the last one, stop blaming others for your mistakes. Own up to your own mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. Examine your mistakes. Stop subscribing to cognitive dissonance. Okay? Get away from that destructive habit. There's no such thing as flipping the script. Okay? We're not that important at all. We're not going to destroy a multi-billion-dollar industry of professional sports because of Gematria. We're not going to destroy Las Vegas because of Gematria. Get away from that cognitive dissonance.